These are 7 pieces of advice I wish I knew when I first started my PhD, and I've learned them the hard way, so hopefully you don't have to. First one is, when it gets tough, remember why you started. Throughout your entire PhD, from the start to even towards the end when you were doing your Viva, it will get hard. It is essentially 99.9% possible that things will go pear-shaped, they'll go left, right and centre. You'll have issues with yourself, your supervisor, your colleagues. Things will have all sorts of problems arise in your lab or in your field. It will get tough. And in those times, it is really, really important that you remember why you started. Remember how excited you were when you first got your PhD position, the reasons why you had aspirations and desires to do one. You might have said these in your interviews, you might have said these with your family, your loved ones. Remember why you started, because that is going to keep you going when time gets tough. Second one is that a 50 or 60,000 word thesis, however long it is, started with one word. Any journey starts with one step, and sometimes we think it's very daunting when we get to the stage in our PhD that, I've got to write now. And it looks very overwhelming. It's like, how many chapters and how many words? It all starts with one word. In your introduction, or one word in your abstract, take one step at a time. That's something that I did very early on in my PhD, that I just planned ahead. To the writing phase, even though it was one word at a time, wasn't too difficult. So it's that kind of mindset, that framing in your brain to say, right, a thesis is just an accumulation of words, essentially. Let me tackle it one paragraph at a time, one word at a time, and it becomes less daunting. Third is that nobody will know the dark side, they never will. And this is important to remember, because when we look at it from, I remember when that happened, this happened, that happened. Nobody will know. All they'll see is the papers, the publications, the awards. They won't know how difficult it was. And the thing is, sometimes when we accept that, they'll never know. It becomes very reassuring and very uplifting. It's kind of like a burden off your shoulders that these people will never know. And it's kind of cool to say that you know the behind the scenes. There's a video on my channel called PhD The Side You Don't See. And I kind of just lifted the curtain a bit to give people a glimpse as to what happened. They saw the awards, the accolades. They didn't see what I went through. The reason why I'm mentioning this in terms of things to know before your PhD is that, one, you accept that there will be a dark side, that people will never know, and you come to terms with not everybody will know the truth. Two, it makes the story even sweeter when you want to share it with those who are your loved ones, your family, and you share like the struggle and you give them a glimpse. It's even more rewarding than when you compare it to the accolades and the rewards, that this is actually what I went through. This was the dark side, and this is what I went through. So being prepared for that in mind is something that I felt I wish I did. I wish I knew when I did my PhD. Fourth one is, the pain is useful. Like, I genuinely cannot emphasize the amount of trauma and stress. Yes, I'm not going to wish this on anybody, but it did mold me to be who I am today. PhD will mold you daily. It will put you to the test. It will put you through the ringer time and time and time again. And that pain that you go through, it is up to you how you channel it. It can consume you, it can take control of you, or you can make use of it. It's kind of like the famous analogy, you're going to lose or win, you're going to go through pain. You might as well make something out of it. And that's very true for doing a PhD. You will go through hell, make use of it, and then allow it to mold you into becoming a better person. Patience, perseverance, dedication, focus, all of these things you learn the hard way by going through pain in your PhD. Fifth one is, it is your PhD, you have rights. A lot of people realize that when they start their PhD, it's about the supervisor and they're the boss and they're the dictator. They're there to supervise you, they're not there to manage you. Big difference. It is your PhD, it's your responsibility. You're supposed to steer the ship and put in all the power. They're just supposed to just put you into the right direction. That is what their job is as a supervisor. And again, as a student, you have more power than them, but sometimes they make it so that you feel inferior or you feel you can't say anything because they'll jeopardize your PhD. Nope. If it comes to court and it comes to kind of legal rulings within the university, if you see many of my other videos on the channel about threat of evidences, make sure you confide. And if you've got chains of evidences, a supervisor can't say anything, and you, the student, has the power. Because you got to remember, if a student, makes a claim that my supervisor has done this or that to me, the university is going to listen because it's their reputation on the line. So sometimes a supervisor can put you into this bubble where you feel you can't say anything, but you can, because you have rights as a PhD student. Please remember that. Sixth one is all about the notion that a PhD is about the thought process. It's about the ability for you to be qualified and verified to think independently and conduct research independently. The papers are a bonus. The awards are a bonus. Even the skills and techniques you learn technically are a bonus. They're all really useful and all need. But the core principle of why you do a PhD isn't any of those things. It's for you to be able to sit on this kind of imaginary table that you are an independent thinker. You have now been licensed and verified through doing a 4-year research project, that you can come up with an idea, you can devise experiments to test that hypothesis, you can conduct them with a really good standard, you can prove it, and then you can defend it. Those are the aspects you need as a researcher for anything. If you have that in your mind when you first start, you're going to be more positioned and better placed in order to make use of the PhD, having that thought in mind. And lastly, probably the most controversial in a way is that there isn't any kind of good or bad experiments. There's just good or bad experimental design. Naturally, as a researcher, if you're true to your word, you have a hypothesis and you might be biased towards what you may want to happen. But as researchers, we are not looking to see what happens or trying to influence the results. Whatever happens after an experiment, we take at face value. We should be objective. We might want to see something happen, but just because it didn't happen, we don't question, oh, we need to do the experiment again. If your experimental design is on point and you focus on that, whatever the data is, you should let it guide you. One of the best things my professor, even though we had many differences in opinion, one thing that did stuck with me that I did appreciate him saying is, let the data guide you. Don't be influenced by it. Focus on having really good controls, really good experimental design, and then let the data guide you. And if it's not what you thought it was, go back and then try and understand how did that come across. Because you've got to remember that you should not be biased or trying to influence a result because you want it to show the story. That's not what we do as researchers. We have hypotheses and we have really good experimental design to test them. The results speak for itself. Keep that in mind, because sometimes you might want to do an experiment, you might want to see something. Fine, very so, we are human. But we have to focus on making sure that design is so important that whatever the results show, we should take it at face value. Yes, troubleshoot it if it's not what we expected, but you shouldn't try to influence by trying to re-engineer. And unfortunately, a lot of people do this within research. Let the data guide you. So guys, those are 7 pieces of advice I wish I knew when I first started my PhD, and I hope they help you. Comment down below which one do you think is the best for you and why. If you want to subscribe, more than welcome to. And I shall see you in the next one. Take care, guys.